Hey there, Rednecks, Preppies, Redneck Preppies. It's me, the Redneck Preppy. How you doing today? Great. Good. AK versus AR, 9mm versus 45 ACP, polymer versus wood and steel. None of those hotly debated polar opposites hold a candle to the true war of our age. MOA versus mill. Man, I avoid the scope section on my local gun store these days just to avoid becoming collateral damage. Well, I guess not today, because I'm going to talk about which one is better. And to be honest with you, it's probably safer to weigh in on whether pineapple is a legitimate pizza topping. It is, by the way. It is. Anyway, let's get into it by first explaining briefly what they are, in case you're one of those that doesn't know. Now, if you already grokked the basics, there are chapters on this video. Just skip to the part where I express an opinion. Now, when you're shooting at a target, regardless of the distance, the spread of holes that results is at an angle from where you are. We measure that distance downrange, although you might not realize it, through an angular measurement. Now, whether you're measuring a group or adjusting your turret to shift a point of impact, you're employing measure of an angle. And every modern scope you use is guaranteed to have turrets that will allow you to adjust windage and elevation. In order to be able to set those turrets, you have to have some sort of scale. Arguably the most well-known turret adjustment, at least amongst general purpose shooters, uses MOA, or minute of angle. Now, you may remember this from school, that a circle is divided into 360 degrees. We'll mark off the 90-degree line, and this is 1 degree. Now, if you divided up that 1 degree into 60 equivalent pieces, you would have 60 minutes. So, a minute of angle is an angular measurement that represents 1/60th of a degree. In non-math talking guy terms, that boils down to that 1 MOA is equivalent to 1 inch at 100 yards. Well, actually 1.047 inches at 100 yards, but 1 inch is good enough for most people. So if you shoot a group that's 1 inch in diameter at 100 yards, you have shot 1 MOA. At 200 yards, that would be a 2-inch group, and so on. A 1-inch group at 200 yards is half an MOA, while a 2-inch group at that distance would be 1 MOA. For the purposes of a scope, if the turrets on it adjust in quarter MOA increments, that means it would take 4 clicks to move your point of aim 1 inch at 100 yards. And since we're using an angular measurement, that means those 4 clicks at 100 yards would translate into 2 inches at 200 yards. The other common adjustment and measurement system is mil, also known as milliradian or milrad. That should immediately tell you 2 things. It's metric based, milli means thousandth, and it's a measurement of angle because a radian is a unit of angle. To get into the math, a mil is a unit of measurement that divides the radians of a circle. There are 6.2832 radians in a circle. That's 2 times the value of pi. And there are 1,000 milliradians in a radian. So therefore, there are 6,283 milliradians in a circle. Trust me, this sounds complicated. It's not. Finally, the circle's radius is equivalent of the distance to the target that you're shooting at. Now, since it's a metric system, I'm not going to be blowing your mind by telling you that instead of yards and inches, we're using meters and centimeters. So a mil is equivalent to 10 centimeters at 100 yards. Metric-based systems have the reputation of being simple to understand, and I think it's true with mil as well. Scopes are adjusted with 0.1 mil for each click. So 1 click is 1 centimeter at 100 meters. Now, as with MOA, since it's angular, that 1 click, 1 centimeter at 100 meters translates into 2 centimeters at 200 meters. Now, if you want to convert between the two, 1 mil or 10 centimeters at 100 meters translates into 3.6 inches at 100 yards, while 1 MOA is 29 millimeters, or about a third of a centimeter, at 100 meters. To convert mils to MOA, you can just multiply by 3.438, and to convert MOA to mils, you divide by 3.438. Clear as mud, right? At the end of the day, MOA and mil accomplish the same thing, adjusting your scope with a mathematical system based on angles. The only thing different are the units of measurement. And if you served in the United States Army any time since 1957 or a NATO Army for the same period of time, metric shouldn't really be a black box of measurement for you. Hell, you used mils. So now that we have all of that mathifying out of the way, let's get to the question this video is trying to answer. Which one is better to use? Well, let's look at milliradians first. The key strength to milliradians is that it's dead simple to use. We all got 10 digits on our hands and 10 more on our feet. We learn to count by going up to 10. Our number system is largely based on tens. So understanding and communicating numbers based on tens will be easier on new shooters, while old hands will understand it readily enough. If you're a precision or a bench rest shooter, you'll probably find that most shooters are, in fact, using milliradian, as it's easier to make calls and dial in changes with that system. The knock on milliradian, however, is that these scopes tend to be more expensive, and some people complain that mil reticles can appear busier than your traditional MOA-based reticle, though to be honest, I'm not quite sure what they mean, because to me, they both look equally busy. As for MOA, it can be more difficult for new shooters because although a quarter MOA turret means 4 clicks at 100 yards for 1 inch, a lot of people then have to stop and try and figure out adjustments at longer and especially shorter ranges. I don't think most people intuitively think in terms of quarters that change their meanings depending on the distance that they're shooting at. MOA is a more finely tunable system, however. Remember that a click of a mil turret moves your point of aim by 1 centimeter at 100 meters, while the equivalent with a quarter MOA turret would be 7.25 millimeters, or 3/4 of a centimeter. That allows you finer adjustments. If you're a hunter, you probably don't care very much about a quarter of a centimeter, but if you're a precision shooter, you probably do. Of course, if mil scopes are more expensive, that of course means that MOA scopes are generally cheaper. And again, if mil reticles can appear complicated and busy, MOA reticles tend to be less so. Though again, I find them to be the exact same. So the answer to the question is, they're both fine. There is something to be said for standardizing, that if you get comfortable with one system, that you stick with it in all aspects of your shooting life. Look, either MOA or mil is fine for any application. So to my way of thinking, if you settle on one, it's good for everything. Now I know that some people are going to take issue with that, but this isn't a religious debate. It's a question of which angular measurement unit you want to use to adjust your scope. And the pros and cons probably led you to conclude there are pluses and minuses to each, but they both get the job done. And as for my preference, well, my gun safe over there has rifles with MOA scopes and others with mil scopes. I shoot bench with either, and I've also done so with hunting. If you want to pin me down, and preferably look like Elizabeth Hurley while that's happening, I'd say that I'd make the choice for mils. I find it an easier system to use. But if you offer me $100 in $10 bills or $100 in $20 bills, I'll live with either. At the end of the day, I honestly believe that it's a question of what you're comfortable with. If you're stodgily wedded to inches and yards, you probably don't have much of a reason to learn a new system, even if it is easy. And ditto if you're part of the worldwide metric brigade. There probably isn't much incentive to move to MOA, even if your range is measured out in yards as mine is. So stop the madness, end the wars, quell the debate. Although you could make a choice between the two based on what you want to do with your rifle, at the end of the day, it's all good. At any rate, I hope you found today's video at least be vaguely entertaining and mildly informative. As always, I hope all your groups are tight, regardless of which system you use. Take care, and bye-bye.